What's up, everyone? It's Trainer Dell, and in this video I have for you my Felisa Fang of Silverquill EDH deck. This is obviously from the new, let me zoom out a little bit, Silverquill Statement, the Strixhaven School of Mages Commander deck, which he's in the deck, but I'm using the Felisa here because I kind of like the strategy of it. You know, it's like has Mentor, which is a Boros thing, and I'm a Boros boy. And although, Lorehold is also like Boros colors, I kind of just ripped apart that EDH deck and just put that into, the cards into other things like this one right here. But yeah, I'll just show you like my first try at building this deck. And the reason I find it so cool is this is a legendary creature, Vampire Wizard, with flying and Mentor. And like I said, Mentor just reminds me of that Boros mentality of attacking, but it doesn't really need to attack because what the +1/+1 counters really do is help fuel this part. That is whenever a non-token creature you control dies, if it had counters on it, you can create X-tap 2/1 white and black Inkling creature tokens with flying, where X is the number of counters it had on it. So obviously, if you attack with a smaller creature that's non-token, and then it dies, you get 1. And then the more you get piled on, the more token creatures you can make. So she is definitely the leader of this deck, and I think she's pretty cool. So Aristocrats is another, it's like, what could I say the themes are? The +1/+1 counters, Aristocrats, and a little, just like a tiny bit of politics. Tiny bit. But yeah, start off with like Viserys here for sacking Blood-Soaked Champion to bring back. And there's ways to like keep, bring him back and stuff, and I'll show you. Blood Artist to drain lives with all the creatures dying. Reassembling Skeleton, another card just to keep bringing back. Zulaport Cutthroat here. Oreskos Explorer to get some planes. Knight of the White Orchard also to get planes. Orzhov Advocates, another way to get +1/+1 counters on creatures. And also, like I said, just a little bit of politics to have your opponents not attack you. Mentor the Meek, because the Inkling creatures, are like 2/1s, so help you draw. Nils, Discipline Enforcer. Now this is a new card from Strixhaven, and that's at the end of your end step. For each player, put a +1/+1 counter on up to 1 target creature that player controls. And each creature with 1 or more counters can't attack you or planeswalkers you control unless they pay X, where X is the amount of counters on that creature. One of my best friends plays Kethriel, and that thing gets counters up to Yin Yang. So this card can help against like decks like that, and like Zaxara and stuff like that, the Hydras. Oh man, Nils is just a way to protect myself. Verge Rangers for my Ikoria. It's also help balance out with lands. Yahenni, my boy Yahenni. I love this card. This is like one of my favorite cards in Magic of all time. But yeah, just haste, and whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, put a +1/+1 counter on this. You can sacrifice another creature and it gains indestructible. Grim Harvespecs, basically here, so when another non-token creature you control dies, draw a card, and hopefully that tokens also make more tokens. Playcrafter, just to have everyone sack or discard a card, or like sack a creature, or even a planeswalker. So that's the cool thing about Playcrafter. Bane the Broker, he's in here. I think he's still a little slow, but I mean, his abilities are still pretty good. The sacking a creature to put 2 +1/+1 counters on target creature is really good. You can remove a counter to make a treasure. Sacrifice an artifact to create a 2/1 white and black Inkling creature, and then 3 and black to untap it. So he's got some cool modes. Brina, the Demagogue. Demagogue? Is Brina? Oh, so she's supposed to be the face card, but yeah, I'm using Felisa. But yeah, whenever a player attacks 1 or more of your opponents, if that opponent has more life than another of your opponents, that attacking player draws a card, and you put 2 +1/+1 counters on a creature you control. So as long as someone's attacking the opponent with the most life, unless you have the most life, then you're gonna, like I said, you gotta work a little politics, but they'll draw cards. I mean, yeah, you'll also be able to draw a card, but also get the +1/+1 counters. So, and it's a 3-drop, it's not too bad. Selfless Squire, Another one of my favorite cards in Magic. Flash, when it comes down, you prevent all damage, and any damage you would have taken gets +1/+1 counters. And we there's a joke that one time we were playing, and one of my friends was going to go infinite and make infinite counters and then attack, and then I played Selfless Squire. So to this day, Selfless Squire is making counters. Obviously, you can't do infinite. Like, you have to call a number, but that's the thing. It was game. One Selfless Squire hit the board. Mangara the Diplomat, one of really good card in white, honestly. Basically, whenever your opponent attacks with creatures, if 2 or more attack you, you draw a card. And whenever an opponent casts their second spell each turn, you draw a card. So white is just getting so much good space right now. Combat Calligrapher, Inklings can't attack you or planeswalkers you control, and whenever a player attacks one of your opponents, that attacking player creates a tap 2/1, basically Inkling creature token that's attacking that player. So as long as they're not attacking you, then boom, they're going to get more creature tokens on the battlefield. Basar's Lieutenant is here. He also puts a counter on something. He has protection for multicolored, but his ability is part of like this Wombo combo. And so yeah, so he's in there because he makes night tokens. And if you got Cathartic Reunion or something, oh, not Cathartic Reunion, it's in there. We'll see it. We'll find it. Pitiless Plunder makes some treasures when creatures die. Blood Tracker, you can pay life to just keep putting counters on this, and then when this dies, you draw a card for each +1/+1 counter on it. Plus, you'll make a bunch of tokens. Bold Plagiarist. I think this is a cool card. Flash, and whenever an opponent puts 1 or more counters on a creature they control, you can just put the same amount of this. So that's just, you know, as long as it's on the board. So all those like Korea cards are like make indestructible or hexproof counter or whatever. Well, you can have them too. Teysa, obviously there's a lot of sack and stuff outlets to creatures dying to do certain things, so this just doubles that effect and also gives your tokens vigilance and lifelink. Sunscorch Regent, you know, sometimes this comes down a little bit early and people are still making their boards and casting spells, and this just gets bigger and you keep gaining life. Felisa. Originally I was going to build this commander, but I just never had like the passion to finish it. So when I saw Felisa, I was like, this is a cool card to put in here. Basically, at the end of your each end step, create X 1/1 white spirit creature tokens with flying, where X is the number of tokens you created this turn. So that, and like, what is it? Anything that makes a treasure token, like we got in here, Monologue Tax and Smothering Tide. Ooh, E. Ooh, All right, so we got Deathbringer Liege just here to help the black and white creatures. It has cool effects where you can tap down a creature if you play white spell, and if you play black spell, you can tap down, or you can destroy a target creature that is tapped. So they help each other, especially if you play like multicolored cards. Necropolis Regent, basically whenever a creature you control deals combat damage, you get to put that many +1/+1 counters on it. So it just doubles the power of anything that gets through. So usually I have like artifact, instant, sorceries, enchantments, stuff like that. But I just wanted to knock out the creatures first, and they have their own abilities. But I'm kind of trying this out right now, which is more like, hey, I'm gonna basically just go down. Like, this is the ramp section. So Soul Ring, Orzhov Signet, Arcane Signet, Prismatic Lens, Mind Stone, Marble Diamond, Charcoal, Commander Sphere, Monologue Tax, and Smothering Tide. This is all basically the ramp section. Then we got the removal, which we got Swords to Plowshare, Path to Exile, Disenchant, New Vanishing Verse, Fracture, Mortify, Utter End, Wrath of God, and Tragic Arrogance. And then like the draw stuff, and there's not a lot. It doesn't look like a lot, but there are some cards that help me draw like some of the creatures and stuff. So, you know, don't worry about the numbers and how low it looks. Skull Clamp, Ambitions Cost, Read the Bones. I don't know, this should have been flipped, I think. Should have been back here, and I'll throw it back there. So Dark Tutelage, which is basically like Dark Confidant on an enchantment. Archaeomancer's Map. Ooh, amazing new card that lets you get up to 2 basic planes. When you play this, put them in your hand, and then whenever land enters the battlefield, obviously if your opponent has more than you, you can put a land onto the battlefield, and it's any land. That's the cool thing. It doesn't have to just be basic. We got Secure Rendezvous, and this is where it should have been. Vision's Cost and Diabolic Tutor, which, yeah, it's not really draw, but I kind of count it as a way to get something. Then the +1/+1 counter strategies, the Ozolith. Like I said, if you have a bunch of creatures with the tokens go here, or the counters go here when a creature leaves the battlefield. And at the beginning of your combat, if this has counters on it, you can move all the counters to a target creature. So those like Reassembling Skeleton, stuff like that just keep coming back. You can just, keep making tokens, especially if you have a sack outlet. Collective Effort, mostly the mode to put a +1/+1 counter on each target creature a player controls, which is usually ourselves. Unbreakable Formation, obviously play this on our turn, so not only do our creatures get indestructible, but they all get a +1/+1 and Vigilance. But they get the +1/+1 counter, yeah, and then Vigilance until end of turn. Citadel Siege, Enchantment, use cons, beginning of the combat, put 2 +1/+1 counters on target creature you control. And Cathars Crusade. I say like Cathartic Reunion, but Cathars Crusade not only does it help put +1/+1 counters on anything that hits the board on our side, but it's kind of like a combo piece as well. Got Altar of Dimension, which is a sack outlet, and with Cathars Crusade, Basari's Lieutenant, and any creatures with +1/+1 counters, you can kind of mill someone out. Another sack outlet here, Ashnod's Altar, for infinite mana, basically. We got Tortured Existence and Phyrexian Arena. These are just to get creatures back from the graveyard. This one you need to send a creature from your hand to the graveyard to get one back. This one you just pay 2 life. So this one's usually better, but if they take care of this one, then at least we have a backup card that can do the same thing. Tangible Virtue, just here, creature tokens you control get +1/+1 and have Vigilance, just to help this out, have more tokens, do more stuff, be stronger. Teferi's Protection and Ink Shield. This is like the utility cards, I guess you would say, the protection to save ourselves. Teferi's Protection. And then Ink Shield, a new card. A little cost heavy, but still pretty cool. Prevent all combat damage you would have been dealt. And for each 1 damage, you create the 2/1 white and black Inkling creature tokens with flying. So it's kind of like the Selfless Squire, but instead of counters putting on it, you make a bunch of tokens. So that's also that's a new card, and I'm so excited to play it. Torment of Hellfire, a way to use up all that mana. And then your land base, fix it to your liking. This is just what I have right now. The new Study Hall. Godless Shrine is the only really good land. I guess the Bright Climb Pathway, and then the reverse of that. And Castle Locthwain. Bajuka Bog, obviously. And just whatever. So I'm not going to really count it out. But I also got these. This is mainly for the Regent. To when it's on the board, get anything through to keep putting stuff. So yeah, that's basically my deck starting off point. Don't know how much more I'd upgrade it. I think it's pretty solid, but if you guys have any suggestions, just let me know down below. Thank you so much for watching. All right, peace.